I wonder if it feels different with the recorder on. If there's a different sense to being recorded.
I think that the only sense that I really felt was like some fun and excitement, and maybe that felt for a second like it's taking me out of the depth or something. But I think that actually it is a deep feeling, just in a different feeling way. Like there's not as much heaviness to it or something, but I still feel very present.
I noticed, like, yeah, as you were saying that, I like kind of perked up, like, I like felt a little more like, I'm important, or somebody's gonna listen to this later, and it's gonna be important. Or I don't know. No, and then I'm like, now as I'm saying that, I feel like I'm pulling back from that kind of expectation.
Yeah, I think I hadn't even thought of the idea that people are going to listen to this potentially. Maybe that makes it more exciting. But I definitely didn't have a sense of it being important. I was just like, I wonder if this like fun, giddy feeling is gonna create almost like an anxious sounding conversation for me at the start.
You didn't sound anxious right there. You sounded like actually kind of very sort of penetrative with your expression.
I feel more of the sense of being like grounded and connected, and like a penetrative kind of way in this moment now.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel more pulled in now, a little more dropped into like I don't know if it's a tunnel or it's like something lifts. Something I drop and something else lifts. That's the feeling of it. And I notice your smile, and there's something that feels good about that. Like, oh, maybe I said something and then something happened to you. Like, neurologically, to see a reaction.
Yeah, something popped up. Like, I keep getting just a couple small flashes in my head of people could be watching this, and there's like this impulsive sense to be like, okay, we better make this good. Or like, we better make this compelling, and we better make it interesting. And it feels like it kind of pulled me back out almost of the moment. And at the same time, like, made me laugh at myself and my thoughts.
Yeah. It's like when you were talking, the word like performance pressure came up for me, and I'm like, oh, that would be cool if we just explored performance pressure and what that is. And then I had like this kind of funny thought of like, oh, what if we didn't care if we bored people at all, and just kept putting it out there, even if it's incredibly boring. And just keep posting it over and over. And there was something that felt so like just hilarious about that to me.
Yeah.
I feel like my lungs are filled like with air now, and like a ballooning sense.
Yeah, like I noticed this want to just keep smiling and like tension in my face and like some sort of, I can't tell if it feels like a pressure or an expansiveness in my head. And like something feels like it's stretching or something. I think like stimulated by the laughter.
I just thought about it again. Yeah.
Just had this thought in my mind, and I'm not even sure if it's an actual desire, but these words in my mind said I want something like edgy to happen.
Yeah. What's the part of you that wants something edgy?
The first thing that came up is I think that I actually like associated with that idea of maybe like some performance, or like I think a desire that I've had for a long time is for people to see some form of authentic expression in like some dramatic way that they've never seen before, and just be in awe around how someone can be so like edgy and so revealing. I feel like I like being witnessed in my vulnerability, and I think that's a motivation, is for people to witness it. Like maybe it would help them in their growth or something in some way, and like it would be more relatable for people. I think there's a sense of wanting people to also feel safe to be themselves and to be vulnerable, and like how can I expect people to do that if I'm not going to do it?
Yeah, there's something that feels really good about you just like owning, wanting to be seen in your vulnerability, and that maybe it might inspire somebody else. There's something that felt really good about that whole expression. And then there was like even a moment of it where I was like, wow, he's saying something really important right now. Like there was a sense of what you were saying was almost like and I know you said earlier that like you don't have a mission, but if you did, I was imagining that it might be something like that.
Yeah, while I was speaking, it's like I can tell when I'm speaking from some sense of passion where I just like lose myself, and it kind of felt like that, like there was this spark of passion the whole time I was talking, and it wasn't from this still calm place, it was from this like excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm alive kind of place.
Yeah, that seems to fit for me. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why this felt important was, yeah, there was passion and aliveness in it. Yeah, and then there's this thought of like, oh, I don't know. This sounds almost sounds like cliche or a little like saccharine, but it's like I was imagining that like, oh, this is like a laboratory where like dreams and passions are created, or a space where that can happen.
This as in like circling, or what's this?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So I think I'm having a concept of circling, and then I have a concept of conversation, like more of a discussion, and there's a place where the two meet for me. There's like a pure circling and like a pure conversation, and really like listening to like a lot of famous circlers lately and different people. Like there's this idea that's sort of it's sort of just like out in the sort of collective consciousness right now of like an emergent conversation, or like how do we have an emergent conversation, one where like what wants to emerge is allowed to emerge, the thing that's most alive. And so I feel like more than a pure kind of circling, it's more like welcoming of ideas when ideas arise, or like we're inviting ideas more.
Yeah, it feels exciting. Like maybe that's maybe that's something that I've possibly experienced in like a scenario that's spontaneous, but hearing it like as a concept feels new to me. Like I've only either circled or like circled someone without their awareness, where maybe that emergence comes up. It seems like, and the idea of sort of consciously being aware of it feels exciting.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in me that has like some resistance to something I just said, or like some, like, was I even fully there saying those words?
Mm. What's funny is I don't think I was. I was floating somewhere. So it's kind of a wonder to me that you didn't feel fully there. Or maybe you sensed me and then felt that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was like, I think there was sort of this slight drop for a second in the connection. And then it was like maybe I was coming from somewhere authentic, but then it just like fell away and I went on autopilot and like, oh, I've got to continue this and just say something. And like I didn't even really feel it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually in, the computer went to screensaver, and I was actually in like, oh, maybe I can get it to not go to a, because I don't know if it still records when it's in a screensaver. So the part of me that's attached to this being recorded like had wandered and wasn't fully with you. And it's interesting like how you could sense that. Like there's, my story is that you actually sensed that in a subtle way and became less interested in what you were saying. Is that true?
It feels very close to the truth. I feel like I can't contemplate the truth right now of what happened.
Yeah. I just had a sense where it's like in the past now.
Yeah, like I'm in a moment that I find myself in often with circling, where there's basically no thought right now, and it feels very hard for me to contemplate things or try and bring up the past or think about things. And it's almost harder for me to think than it is to be here without thought at this point. And then there was a flash of, in my head, like, is that believable? It feels true for me, but I had this idea that that sounds very not believable to a lot of people.
I noticed that like I just automatically believed you. Like there was no questioning of it at all. Yeah. And I'm asking myself like, do I just believe everything? Am I gullible? But now I think I just like trust you in what you say, or at least it's what feels the most real to you in that moment, even if later there's a questioning. impacted by that, like what seems like uh, I notice you said that like when you have tears in the past, it's not always sadness or emotion.
Yeah, it felt like there wasn't any emotion attached to this tear. Uh, it feels more likely to just be that my eyes have been open a while, and I tend to have watery eyes when I eye gaze for a long time. And it's like I almost feel bad about it sometimes, like, oh, they probably think that I'm having some emotional thing happening, and I bet it almost looks beautiful or really good to them, but it's actually not really what they probably think. And so sometimes I almost feel bad about it.
Well, because you've shared that with me before, I kind of wasn't attached to the idea that it was an emotion arising in you, but it was like the perfect tear. In a sense, like aesthetically, it looked like a tear. Like if I were to record a tear for like an art film, it would have been that. Like the way it formed, the way it dropped perfectly down your cheek. Like you could see it forming. It was forming for a while, and then finally, gravity just took it down your cheek. It was like maybe because there was no emotion. I'm like speculating, or maybe it was the perfect tear because it didn't carry an emotion. It was like I don't know. It just
It felt like beautiful to hear you describe it.
or maybe it came so freely. I'm thinking like, oh, because there's like often maybe when there's an emotion, we almost have like some resistance to releasing it or showing it. But maybe yours just came. Maybe that's why it was beautiful, because it seemed to just come so freely. Like yeah.
Like there was no resistance or attachment to anything.
And at first, like when I first started going down this path, I was like, oh, I'm kind of bullshitting, but it sounds kind of cool. But now I'm like, oh no, maybe that's true. Maybe, yeah, because there was no emotion attached to it. It was just like so easy, such an easy purge.
I think I'm finding it like somewhat humorous that we're on this topic.
Yeah. It feels like one that couldn't have been planned. One that could only have come up from the unknown, like the waters of the unknown.
Just had this thought, like, let's just take the most, I don't know, like, unphilosophical thing we can, and let's just like turn it into something beautiful and philosophical and talk about it in a way that's like, this sounds magical. That's what feels like just happened or something.
Yeah. It's like when you say that, like I almost imagine like at first it sounds like this weird like trickster thing to do. Like, look, I made something insignificant, really philosophical and beautiful. But then I'm like, or maybe, but then like another part of me is like, oh no, that's true seeing. Everything's deep and beautiful. Or that's like, if I were to see things truly, that's how it would be. Like the wonder of everything. Like I just heard the plane. And sometimes like I've been leaning into like seeing the wonder in really things that seem like man-made or really just silly or like, oh, go ahead. It seems like you want to say something.
it just brought me to a memory. I was at a festival recently and with this guy who, yeah, I just really connected with. And we were talking with someone else who I think had this attachment to, doing the right thing for the planet and people. And I think me and this other guy just had this sense of the further that we feel connected with ourselves, it's like the more we can almost see horrible things as being so humorous. And like we can almost laugh at the suffering that's happening. So that was just a thought that came into my mind. And like most people will probably be resistant to that. I have this feeling or something. To share it.
The term like cosmic joke is coming up for me as you're saying it. Like somebody had said that, mentioned that term to me earlier, like cosmic joke. And yeah. Yeah, seeing the humor in like what might be horrible. I'm like feeling into that. I like imagining it. And there's a part of it that like unnerves me. I like imagining something really horrible and laughing. But maybe it's an elevated place too, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been feeling lately like this lack doesn't feel necessarily good, but like this lack of care for anything in particular, and it feels really freeing. And sometimes my mind comes in and is like, is this a good thing? Is it okay to just laugh at suffering and to like not feel emotionally attached to certain things or something? I have this sense of caring for everything, but nothing in particular. I mean, I still get triggers where I feel like there's some care, but it seems not very frequent.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious, and like I'm hearing like that there's like a sort of a growing not caring in you, and I'm wondering, like, I can imagine the not caring being of like a quality that feels good inside, like almost like a non-attachment kind of thing, but then a quality of not caring that would just be like kind of callous. And I'm wondering, like, is it any of those, or
Feels like the quality of not caring being callous doesn't feel like a feeling, but like an anxious thought that I get sometimes, which maybe turns into like a feeling of anxiousness a little bit. But it also feels like I'm pretty unattached to that.
yeah,
I'm not even attached to this idea that the caring could be callous. Like, I don't even care about that. It's just this funny thought that comes in, and I'm like, okay, I know that I don't actually feel that way, but there's still like some ego that's like grasping on, that's like, no, believe this so I can live or something.
wow. Yeah, I just had like a light at the first part of what you said. I had like a light bulb go off. Like, I'm like, wow, maybe there's this not caring growing in you, and like it feels good for the most part, but then it's like you can glimpse at its shadow. And like, oh, but you're like aware of it, the shadow side of it too. Like there's a shadow side of everything. And like having awareness of like, oh, what this could creep into callousness, or if I let it, or
Yeah.
like I still need, that's what I'm imagining.
It like brought in images of eating for me. Like if I eat poorly, then I become attached more and I'm more identified with like my problems or something. And like I could actually have this feeling of believing the callousness when like I eat poorly or something. And I feel like I have some self-conscious feeling of sharing things around food and diet because it's almost this idea that nobody cares or like believes it to be true. Like I have this feeling like I just have experienced things that no one else, very few people that I know have experienced through diet, but because they've never experienced it, they would just laugh at it or something if I shared like the beauty and the clarity that it's brought me. And so it's like I don't share the most beautiful aspect of my life because I think that nobody's gonna want to hear it or something.
Yeah. I got a chill, like, as I'm gonna fix the computer for a second, but I got a chill as you said that. It looks like it's still recording, which is good. So yeah, like a feeling of like yeah, like my greatest beauty or the things that have felt the most profound to me or the most profound experiences I've had, I can't share with you because you're just not open. Like you're not open to conceiving of that, or it just won't fit in your mind, or you won't take the time to contemplate it, and yeah, there's something about that it feels like a little sad and then there's like a feeling of like a kind of like there's like some sense of like nobility in not sharing it too. Like, okay, or I can still be with this person anyways. Yeah. They can't see all my beauty, or they can't see all my, and that's okay. It's just where they are.
Yeah, it's like when I think about it, sometimes it feels like if I start talking about it, it feels like I'm trying to convert someone to Christianity or something. Like the sense of I'm pushing like some sort of belief onto people if I'm talking about like diet and fruitarianism or something.
Yeah, people get really defensive around food and diet. There's almost something like primal about it. It's a touchy area. But I imagine like there's some way that you could do it that doesn't seem like you're trying to convert people. And I imagine like if this is, I don't want to try to, I'm wondering if I'm like trying to fix something for you or but like this is it's like a weird line to tread. It's like I have this like imagining that there's a way that you could, if you were in that place where you really weren't trying to fix them, if you're really not, and there's such a purity in sharing your experience, then like that will come through, you know? And it's like if you cultivate, and it's like some part of you like could ask like, oh, am I trying to convert them? Is there some part of me that's trying to convert them? I don't like the part, and I don't know if you like the part of yourself that wants to convert, if there even is one. But
yeah, I think that I don't feel like there's this part that tries to convert, and it's like even when people maybe even ask me about it, or I feel like it's about to arise in me, the resistance is actually like there. Like I don't feel like I'm actively trying to talk about it to people, but anytime it feels like there's a nice opportunity and like it would feel really good and that people would be open to receiving it, it's like I always question and second guess that before speaking. And it's like I always ask them permission, which probably isn't a bad thing, but like, yeah, like I have this anticipation that they're going to be resistant before I even start talking.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine like you miss out on some of the people that really would be open to it, and they're holding back.
Yeah, maybe. I feel not attached actually to like people even hearing it. Like, I think in my daily life when I'm talking to people, I don't feel like I'm missing out by sharing this information or they're missing out. There's only like this emotional issue when it's about to come out of me, and then I'm resistant to it. And even when I'm resistant, I don't feel like attached, like people need to know this. I just notice that there's something there.
Yeah. I have a similar thing with circling. Like I have a real fear of like coming off as evangelical about it. So I like hold back. I don't tell people about it. And I don't, or sometimes if I do tell people about it, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's this thing I do, like, and not like really how special it is to me.
Yeah.
And so I hold back in that, and then people like aren't interested in it because they're like, oh yeah, it doesn't sound like he really cares about that much. It's just something that he does. So it's like I'm almost like I'm not truthfully expressing it, and my holding back.
Yeah, I feel like I do the same thing with circling also.
And maybe there's a wisdom to that too, though. Like, I don't know. Like, there's some part of me that trusts it too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of trust there for me that everything's just going perfect.
Yeah. In a sense, like, I think I shared this with you on Monday, but it's like I don't see circling as such a casual thing anymore. Like maybe other practices, like where people should just stop by. But I see it as like, and I think like if people come to a few circlings, they'll get something out of it. But really, it seems to me like a more serious path to walk down, and not something that like should be advertised on a billboard or. And if people are scared away from it, or it's probably right to be. It's just not for them right now.
I notice myself nodding and also not having much of an opinion around the ideas that I'm hearing. Like, oh, that could be true, that could not be true. I don't really know, but for some reason I'm nodding my head yes. I'm like...
It's like a nod of understanding rather than agreement, or that you...
I think that like a lot of the time I do nod just in the sense of like saying I acknowledge what you're hearing, but this time it felt more like there was a sense of I want you to feel like I'm agreeing with you, even though I really don't have much of an opinion on this.
I think like I did have an underlying sense that you were agreeing with me. Yeah. I wonder if like you didn't have an opinion because you felt like not invested in the topic. Like I imagine it's more alive for me as somebody who organizes circling than it would be for somebody who just attends.
feel like circling is also a huge part of my life, and like I take circling pretty seriously. And I mentioned to you before this, like I'd love to be in like a community house where I'm just circling on a daily basis. I feel like diet and circling have been the two most impactful things in my life. So I feel like I'm very interested in circling.
I feel it from you as you're saying it. Like I feel the energy. It seems like the passion came out again.
Yeah, and then just like I didn't have much opinion on whether like it should be taken seriously by everyone or not. It was like I just wasn't. Yeah, I didn't have an opinion on that. I know that it's special to me and that I take it seriously. But yeah, I don't really know anything about anyone else, or so it just didn't really do anything for me. I think like listening to it, like I loved hearing your thoughts about it, and I was just like kind of here listening.
Yeah. I imagine like I imagine that's how God listens. Like he listens without judgment or opinion. It's like still water. But yeah, as you were speaking, it feels like over the past couple days, feels like I'm entering a new chapter, and over the past couple days, and this is part of it. Like this is part of like a series of events, or I'm like, oh wait, there could be more here. There could be more, a deeper, richer circling community. Could be like circling community living. We could impact the culture of Dallas in a big way. I mean, I think we already do. I have a sense that not just with circling, but with some of the men's stuff that I've done too, which is not as related, but like really a sense where we are impacting. Like sometimes I hear like people at ecstatic dance who don't even come to circling, they're talking in circling ways, like just some of the words that only come from circling, and I'm like, man, I'm like permeating. There's something about the way of being that's like permeating the community. And a few people like have talked about, and it's interesting to think that we can even impact what we're doing, can like spread out in levels like beyond like people I don't even know, like people have been telling me how they have gone and taken it to do it with their parents, or to do it with and had these amazing experiences, or do it with a girlfriend on the West Coast and to help them navigate their relationship. So yeah, I just feel a lot of excitement as I give myself permission to think a little loftier. And there's something in you said that kind of brought that out of me, or that's hearing your seriousness, and that it's something you care about and take seriously.
Yeah, I think it's like also I feel it bouncing off of you and like filling me up more, like with this loftiness and imagination. Like, oh yeah, like we could spread this, I don't know, like there's more of a fire, and it feels really good to hear other people that are passionate about what you're passionate about. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one here like that wants to spread this beautiful thing in my life. And so it feels good to think, I don't know, bigger, think bigger.
Yeah, there's something that feels good about it. And then I'm aware of a part of me that doesn't let myself to, that wants to not be attached, or wants to like not be too big,
Yeah.
or afraid what people might think if I'm like trying to spread my wings too far. Yeah.
I'm laughing and I got this sense of that sounds so sad. And I'm sure that that's in me also. And I don't know what the feeling is. It feels like these tiny micro feelings that are so subtle, I can barely feel them, but it feels like there's a little bit there. Like, what do we possibly have to do to allow ourselves to just be as expansive as we possibly can?
Yeah.
What would it take? It feels like so much suppression all the time of our desires. At least my desires.
Whoa, yeah.
Almost like it's so constant that I don't even realize it's there. Like some noise in the background that's always playing that you can't even hear anymore. It's like the suppression that's just always there that I don't even notice. And I just like give into it.
Yeah, like some deep programming. Yeah. I was imagining, like, as you were speaking, I was like imagining, like, where does this begin with me? And it's like Circling and I have had a relationship for so long. It's almost like a relationship with a woman or a person. We're like, wait, do I trust you? Do I even trust that you're good? Or like, what are you going to show me now? And do I trust myself with you?
Mm-hmm.
And do I even bring you to this party? I don't know if you'll embarrass me or and like, oh man, are you toxic or wait, are you like my life partner? And it's like navigating this relationship with Circling. Yeah. And it feels like I can't deny that life is better because of it, or life is more rich and more alive. That seems undeniable. Seems to have invited a lot of like heightened experiences and relationships, often with more joy and things that I didn't know were possible, but often with pain too. And like sometimes I think I put too much on Circling too, and often it's me and the way I'm showing up in the arena of Circling. So it's part of trusting myself. Just like in a relationship, there's a time we have to turn it to ourselves too and ask where we're doing it. And I want to say one more thing. There's like an innocence. I can come from this innocent place. Like when I first started doing this in January again, like it was coming from this very innocent place of like, just open up the circle and see what happens. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to create anything for anyone. It's free. They can come. We're all in. Gonna see what happens. We're just gonna open up the space and then there's a place where I can be like, oh wait, a lot has happened. This is actually pretty transformative. And like, oh, like people keep coming and saying that it's changed their lives a bit, and then it's like, oh, what do we do with that? Did that come from the place of no expectations? Maybe that can only come from the place of no expectations. You know, if I start to expect stuff out of it, maybe it'll give me less.
Yeah, I kind of got chills hearing that last part. Like I'm sure it resonates with me somewhere. If I start to expect, then maybe the universe will give me less. And now hearing myself say that, it's like, it feels like it's me that gives me less and robs like the joy from myself when I start to expect. Not like the universe is dropping me, but my expectations are becoming attachments, and so I'm dropping myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm having a sense like, oh, maybe that is the way, and that is the way for, or like a good way, is to just like come from pure being and pure being with, and allow and circling to reveal itself, right? Like that's what Guy Senstock talks about sometimes, is he like, we don't say what circling is, we ask circling to keep like showing itself to us over and over.
That feels like really exciting and profound to hear. Like when I heard it, it just resonated as the truth for me.
Yeah, like even now it is. If I start to think it should be a certain way, it feels like it's definitely a frequency that I'm on, and maybe like sometimes like an awareness frequency, but like the content of it or what happens in it seems to be like just a wide open kind of thing.
Yeah, I think for a while I was starting to think that I had hit like some limit or some cap with circling. Like, okay, this is, I've had plenty of circling experiences. I'm like, okay, this is like the peak. Like, there's probably nothing more that can come out of circling. And just recently circling with you, it's like I've been hitting these experiences that I never thought I could get to in circling, and I feel like there's even more experiences, like it feels more limitless than it's ever felt to me recently.
Yeah, that feels really good to hear, that that maybe like we can break new ground. I have a sense where like the circling we've done here in Dallas is still so shallow. Not like that it's bad or that it's shallow is bad. I feel like on Monday, like we got a taste of something deeper, like a more somatic experience, a more energetic experience, and like a more dynamic kind of trans-rational experience, which is like really, I think, what happens a lot in immersions and trainings and people who circle very deeply. But there's a sense for me like, all right, and I feel pretty confident in that, like the water's endless. Yeah, like, I am having a there's like it's definitely been suggested that circling could be a path. People have talked about it as a path to enlightenment, right? And I can kind of like, when I even talk about that, there's kind of part of me that says it ironically, or like, yeah, but it does seem to, nothing seems to like really challenge my ego in a way like circling does, in a way that makes me like reformulate myself all the time. And nothing seems to bring the unexpected like circling, and nothing seems to there's something about it where I feel like there's like these long lost pieces of myself that can be regained through circling too, like stuff from the past, and then that can be turned into future. Or like I've felt things that like I haven't felt since like childhood, and I've felt things that like were just so quiet in me because I never am in a place where I can attend to them, and circling gives me a place to attend to those things that are just so buried. Or and then I'm confronted with people that I wouldn't choose to put myself in contact with.
Yes.
Like there's people that I would never like even like think about meeting in the world, and then so I get to meet the part of myself that's with them.
Yeah, it feels like more profound and practical than any sort of like therapy or session or emotional healing work or something that I've had. Because of that reason, like you're gonna get different opinions, and these are like real feelings and emotions that are coming up with a group of real people. And yeah, it's just things that you probably would not really explore other than in a setting like this. It brings up things that I would never even expect to be there. Like I could meditate, I feel like, by myself all day, every day, and I don't know if it would get me to like this place where I could confront some of the things that I have to confront in relationship with others.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about like you and I, like if you and I were to like pass each other on the street, you might just be like, oh, there's just some guy.
Yeah.
He's probably like a dad or something. Or like but like through circling, we've been able to meet through this frequency, and like even like and here like it seems to me like we're having a more emergent conversation through that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it feels emergent because, for me, I don't know, because it just feels like it's coming from some felt sense. Like, I can hardly even remember anything that we've been talking about, but stuff just keeps coming out from, like, this place that, I don't know, like feels different than what I imagine comes out from most people or something, like from a different space.
Yeah, I definitely feel that different space, and I'm like asking myself what that is. But there's something about it that feels like new terrain. Like when we slow down. Like I'm not repeating to you things that I've thought or said before.
Yeah.
But I'm like slowing down and allowing what newness wants to emerge. I'm not just parroting back to you things I thought earlier.
Yeah.
Or a story from before. I think I want to stop. This seems like a good place.
Yeah.
How does that feel to you?
I was thinking the same thing.
Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah, this was fun.